Hi guys, this is Kumar Kortiwada. In this video, we will learn about lazy components and what exactly that lazy component in SolidJS. Actually speaking, whenever your application loads, all the related components will be loaded into your application. That's fine. But sometimes the component does not need all the components to be loaded. Instead, it can be loaded based on your conditions. For example, a counter is divisible by 2, then I want to show the component. Until that counter is divisible by 2, you cannot show that component. In that case, that component is not required until that condition satisfies. In this case, if we are loading that component, it is useless component. So for that sake, instead of using such useless components, what we can do is we can load these components lazily. Let's understand these lazy components with an example. Let me jump into Visual Studio Code. Here we have an app component, and what I want to do is I want to create a new file which is nothing but lazy component. My component file name itself I am making as lazy component, and it is extended with JSX. Now let me use scomp, which is an extension, so that this will be, which is a snippet which helps us to create our component. Let me format this and save this. Now let me import this lazy component in my app.jsx. So let me use this component and save this and just import this. So here we don't have any condition, and loading this component would be good enough in either a lazy format or eager format. So it will be eagerly loaded now instead of lazy loading. Let me go here, just clear this off and reload. You will be getting a value from this lazy component. Let me import this, and it's not getting imported. Let me import it from this. That is nothing but lazy component from dot slash and lazy component. And let me save this. Now go here, just reload. Now you got lazy component. And now let me add a condition for this. So let me create one signal. I can use SSIG, which is solid signal snippet. So this helps us to create a signal, and let me import this signal. Let me give value as 1. So what I want to do is when my counter, let me mark it as count and let me make it as set count. When my count value is divisible by 2, then I want to show this lazy component. So divisible by 2 and equivalent to 0, then I want to show this lazy component. Until my count is divisible by 2, I don't want to show this lazy component. In that case, let me create a button for incrementing this count value, update count, and I can use an onClick method, onClick, and this onClick will have a callback function. And for that callback function, what I can do is I can use a set count, that is a setter method for this count, and for this let me use a callback function, and this callback function, let me get the count value, that is the previous count value plus 1, so that for the first click it will be incremented by 1 and the value will be divisible by 2. Till that time I don't want to load this lazy component. But here I have imported in a eager format. That means it is not lazy loaded. So what happens? Let's see. For the first time, the condition is false, and hence it should not show this lazy component. So let me go here and reload. You are not able to see that lazy component over here. But let's see whether it has loaded in our file structure or not. Let me go into src source, and inside that we went into src, and here we have app.jsx, and you can see lazy component.jsx. Actually speaking, the DOM is not utilizing this lazy component.jsx, but it has been loaded. So it is waste of loading this component because it is useless component for my DOM until my condition is true. When I click this, then my lazy component is over the DOM. Until that, this component file is useless component. So for that sake, instead of loading them eagerly, we can load them lazily. So how to load them lazily and how it benefits to us whenever it loads lazily. Let me go here. Instead of importing this, it's very easy format. Just we can use something like const. I'll use the same name is equal to lazy. There is a method which is inside our SolidJS. I have imported this lazy, and inside this lazy, let me import by using a callback function. Let me use a callback function and import our file. that is nothing but dot slash, let me use this lazy component, and let me move this whole import statement below so that it has been imported before we are utilizing it. Now our component is lazy loaded. What is the advantage of using this lazy load component? Now for the first time, this lazy component is not in our DOM, and hence it will not be loaded into your structure as well. Let me go here, just reload this. Now if you see this, you don't have that lazy component in your file structure. Why? Because we are loading lazily, and that is not utilized in our DOM structure. Let me go here, and when I click this update count, the count value will become 2, and whenever it becomes 2, then automatically this condition will be true and it requires that lazy component. So it will check in its file structure whether this component is loaded or not. In our case, it is not loaded, hence it will load for the first time. And for the second time, it will not remove that file structure if it is not utilized once it is loaded. So here we don't have a loaded component. Let me click on update count. You can see this lazy component has been loaded now. And when I click this again, it gone. Why? Because the count value 3 is not divisible by 2, but this component is not removed from our file structure once it has been loaded. For the first time, whenever you want to load, instead of loading all the unnecessary components, we can load them lazily and we can improve the performance of our application. That's how you can use a lazy component. Now you may be asking, this is very simple component and why we need to do a lazy? Actually speaking, don't think in a way of a smaller component structure or smaller application. If you have n number of components which are loaded based on a particular condition, then it is always recommended to use this lazy method which is given by SolidJS, so that your application performance will be increased and it will be loaded only when it is required. And once it is loaded, it will not removed from your file structure even if you are not using in your DOM as well. So that's about your lazy components. So always it is recommended to load your components lazily so that it can improve your application's performance. Hope you like my explanation. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.